Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear students. So in this tutorial we are gonna start explaining the drawing techniques in Adobe Animate CC. In the previous lectures we introduced the Adobe Animate interface and we learned how to create a file. As you can see here, you can go to and use any of the presets available. I'm gonna go for the HD. Make sure it is Action Script 3 for now. We are gonna learn other techniques in the future, in the near future, inshallah. So we're going to create just a quick review of what we explained so far. I'm going to fit in window. We explained how to create layers, how to arrange layers, how to delete them, how to basically group them inside a folder. Okay, you need to drag them like that, and how to add contents by using file import, import to stage, and import to library. And we learned the concept of inserting keyframes, inserting frames, and inserting black keyframes, and we learned the differences between them. And if you remember, we said that we have several very useful shortcuts to remember, which is F5, which is new frame, and F6 is going to be for new keyframe, and the last one is F7, which is new blank keyframe. And as we said, always all your contents will go into keyframes, not frames. Frames are just meant to extend the existence of the element that you add into your keyframe. And we are gonna go through this when we explain, basically when we draw things in Adobe Animate. So right now we are gonna start with the creation, or with the drawing tools. Basically, you need to remember in Adobe Animate CC you have two drawing modes. The first one is called Main Drawing Mode. The first one is Merge Drawing Mode, and the second one is the Object Drawing Mode. And referring to your book, Adobe Animate CC Class 1 book, you're going to see a thorough explanation about these two modes. They are very simple, and we are going to demonstrate the difference between them. So first of all, I'm going to start by creating basically a rectangle. Let me just delete these layers, or I'm going to close this file and start a new file again. Guess it's faster. Nope. So HD, I'll put in window. So here you have the drawing tools that you can see. Where you can extend the toolbar for drawing tools, or the tools toolbar. So I'm gonna start with the rectangle tool. Since you see this small rectangle, it means when you click and hold, you're going to have more options, as you already know from Adobe and other software applications. So I'm going to start by creating a rectangle. So this is a rectangle. Basically, the settings of the rectangle is based on the last rectangle that I already drew when I used Adobe Animate. So this is why the color is some kind of purple, and stroke is green, and they are rounded angles. So I'm going to just delete them and go back to the settings, the default settings. I'm going to make them 0, and I'm going to go for a fill color which is blue and a stroke color which is red, and we're going to just select 5 or right 5 for the stroke color. As you can see here, what I was doing is changing the settings for the rectangle. You can do this before or after creating the rectangle. Okay, so I'm going to do it now. I did it already, so I will draw a rectangle, and as you can see, you just click and drag to create your rectangle. Okay, now before talking about the drawing modes, so when you create a rectangle, let's go to the selection tool, which has the shortcut V. If you only click the rectangle like that, you are gonna have it all selected. So this gives you an indication that this shape is object. It's not a shape, because if it's a shape, then you could have been able to select the fill and stroke colors. So I'm gonna click rectangle again, and as you can see here, I'm gonna click object drawing mode again, and this time when I click, you see, I can select the fill color and the stroke color independently, not like this. So this is the object drawing mode when your shape is converted into an object, a single object. But here, the mesh drawing mode, your object is, or your shape is not an object, or let's say it's not a group of shapes of fills and strokes, because your shape is consists of fills and strokes. You need to keep this in mind. So how do you select the fills and strokes? Basically, single click is going to select the shape fill only. But if you double click, you're going to select the whole thing, the strokes for this shape. If you want to select only the stroke, you can click here. You're going to select one stroke. If you double click the stroke, you're going to select the continuous strokes that are linked together. You cannot do this with that object unless you break it apart and convert it, in other words, to an editable shape or a drawing. So basically now when you have this shape selected, when you have this shape fill selected, you can go to fill and change its color to anything else other than blue. You can change the opacity, or you can change any other options from the fill that we are going to cover later on, okay, using the color preset, which I can go and select gradient, radial, or linear, or even a bitmap. Okay, we're going to go to this later on. Okay, I'm going to click the shape layer. So basically I will, okay, sorry, I need to just select a solid color for this shape. I removed it, so as you can see here, it's removed. I'm gonna bring it back. Okay, sorry, escape. I'm gonna click this bucket and then change it to solid color. Sorry, again, bucket, change it to solid color. Okay, no problem. What's gonna happen is I will just go to the bucket tool and fill it, and that's it. This is gonna be filled with a color. So you can click now and go to the red. Oh no, not red, because the stroke is red. We need to see it. So this is the fill color. As you can see, I can move it away. I'm gonna undo. I can select the stroke color. I can change its size. Let me delete this object right now. I will just put it here in the center, so you can see the strokes. I can double click. As I told you, you can change the stroke size. You can change the stroke style, basically, to make it any other thing. Sometimes you cannot see the difference because the size is too big, but when you make it small, you're gonna see the stroke, as you can see here when you zoom. Okay, so this is the stroke. Basically, you can select this and edit the stroke style if you want. You can change the dash and number, you can change the dash spacing, you can change the thickness if you want of the dash. You can press OK. You see, this is the changes that you made. So it's always a good idea to practice a lot with the settings and see what they do, what's the effect of the settings when you apply them or when you edit them. Basically, I'm going to go back to the hairline or to the straight line here, because with this setting I have access to the width, in which I can select a different profile for my style. We are gonna see it with lines. It's gonna be more obvious than rectangle later on, but as you can see here, I can just change. I'm gonna click to window again. I can do other changes. You see, when you increase it, this is the profile. You can make it like this, you can make it like that, you can make it like that, or any other profile. You can go here and add a profile, or delete profile, or even reset your profiles. I'm going to go back to the normal one, the straight one, the uniform profile, and let's just demonstrate what these can do to our stroke. Basically, as we can see here, this is a rounded joint. So this is a rounded joint. When you double click again, You can make it bevel joint, or you can make it meta joint, which is going to be straight. This is regarding the joints. Now you can change the caps of the strokes. Right now you cannot see the difference because all the strokes are closed, but if I select one of the stroke and delete it, now I can see the difference in my stroke caps. You see here, this is up to here only, and this is the round cap, and this is the projection cap. Okay, so there are always different settings that you can work with when you work with your objects. Obviously, these settings of the stroke settings that we are applying to our shape here, which is a rectangle, can be applied to any other shape, to any stroke. To be more accurate, any stroke can you can change the settings too. So now let's demonstrate what is the difference between the object and drawing, between merge and object drawing modes. So I will draw for this purpose a circle, an oval. Basically, when I click, I'm going to just reduce the stroke size, and I'm going to hold shift. I'm going to hold alt and shift to create the circle from the center uniformly, because if you don't hold shift, you're going to create an ellipse. So I'm going to hold shift to create a circle. So I'm going to double click and move it right here. I'm going to keep the stroke basically, and I'm going to draw another oval, or you can duplicate it. You can duplicate the oval by holding alt and moving. For this case, I only selected the fill. This is why I copied the fill only, but if you double click it and hold and drag shift, as you can see, you can duplicate the whole thing. And as we learned earlier in previous lesson, you can go to this transform tool basically and change the size of the circle, or you can go here and change the width and height. Basically, you can lock the proportions to make it uniform or non-uniform, up to you. So now if you move this up, sorry, I'm gonna undo, I'll double click. If you move this, let me go to move tool. If you move this over the circle and you deselect, now these circles are joined together. This is why it's called merge drawing, or merge drawing modes, because the two shapes now are merged together. So what does it mean? If I want to move this, as you can see, it's going to cut from the original shape. If you double click it and you move it, it's going to cut. Okay, so it's very useful if you want to merge objects. I can select this stroke only, as you can see here, and I can delete it, and as you can see, I can create the Mickey Mouse logo using this technique. Okay, how I'm going to do this, I'm going to undo, so I need to have another copy of that shape. Sorry, again, I will just put this here, and I will double click and put this here. You see the smart guide available. Now I have a Mickey Mouse or Disney logo, easily designed. You don't need to use the pen tool or other drawing techniques, so you can delete this if you don't need it, and basically you don't need it because this is the logo. So this is the merge drawing mode. So what about the object drawing mode? If I'm gonna click here and click the object drawing mode, when you draw an eye, for example, like that, when you select it, you're gonna notice the difference. First, there is a bounding box for the shape, and you cannot select the fill color or the stroke color. So when you move it over your object like that, you move it away, it's not going to be merged because they are two different objects. Okay, even if you change the stroke into another color, as you can see here, and I move it back, it's not going to affect the shape, even they are on the same layer. And this is a very good point to remember. They are going to be merged if they are on the same layer, or even if they are different layers, but basically if they are in different layers, you can unlock one of the layers to avoid merging them. So usually you use merge object mode when you want to merge objects. You use object when you don't want to merge objects. So basically in this option it is only on off, activate object drawing mode or not. So it's up to you. Now what if I created an object, but I decided later I want it to be a shape? In other words, I need to access its fill and stroke. So you either double click the shape, and as you can see here, you are not in the scene anymore, you are in the scene inside drawing object, which is this object. In this case, you can select that, or you can break it apart by using either the shortcut, which is Control B, as you can see now, to break it apart, or you select the object. Let me undo. Or you select the object and click this from the object tool or panel, expand to fills, and this is going to expand it into a fill and strokes. Okay, so this is the stroke and this is the fill, and in this case I can just select this and delete it. I can select part of the object and delete it, and I can create interesting effects. Okay, so I hope this was a clear demonstration on the shapes. So let's continue with few other options regarding the shapes I'm drawing in Adobe Animate. And by the way, Adobe Animate is a very good application for drawing. Definitely it's not as good as Illustrator, but it can draw in very good shapes if you don't know Illustrator. So let's just start with polygon. You can draw this. As you can see, as I said, we're going to demonstrate other shape tools. Drawing tools, sorry, not shape tools. When you click the object of the rectangle, if you notice at the beginning it was rounded corner, you can change this from here. You see by default the rectangle options 0 the corners. You can make it, for example, 15, and when you're going to draw it, you're going to see it's rounded. Okay. The other thing you can do is you can click this to make the settings available for individual rectangle corner. So you can change the radius for individual corner. So I'm going to make this 0. I'm going to make this 30, and I'm going to make this 0, for example, and I'm going to make this 30. And let's see the result. As you can see, there's very interesting result here. You can do it. Obviously, when you create it, you have no access to this option anymore. So you have to select it from the beginning. You cannot change it later with this rectangle tool. But basically, obviously, you have other tools like rectangle primitive tool, which has options that you can change here, because you see this just like a Bezier path that you learned in Photoshop or Illustrator or any drawing application. You can use it to change the radius. Okay, I can click here, so I can just make this 20. As you can see, I can make this 0 if I want. I can make this 200 if I want, and I can make this maybe 50. So with the rectangle primitive tool, you can change after you create. With the rectangle tool, no, you have to create it, and that's it, because it's not a primitive. It has no access to these sub selection, let's call it, or vertices. You don't have the access to the vertices with the rectangle. Okay, only with the rectangular primitive tool, and the same thing goes for the oval primitive tool here that you can create. When you create an oval, let me just empty the screen, clear the screen, sorry. When I create an oval like that, I have an access to these points, so I can click here to select to make a hole in my circle, make it like a donut or a tube. I can also make this and make it like a C letter or anything. It is very useful if you want to draw certain shapes with only the use of an oval tool. Okay, so this was the oval primitive and rectangular primitive tool. Basically, let's try other tools that you can use to draw in Adobe Animate CC, like the line. The line is simply, you can create a line, but with this line you can change the style. But basically you need to select first, and then I can change the style of the line. As you can see here, increase the stroke. I can change the style of the line and then change the width. But for this, It's not available though, it's only available the straight line, because that's what's going to happen with the line basically. Here, if you go to the sub-selection tool, you can click, you can see the line, you can change it. We're going to discuss this in a separate video, how to draw using a pen tool. And basically, it's not going to be a long video, it's just a revision video for what you learned in Adobe Photoshop or Illustrator. But I'm going to go back to the sub-selection tool here, or to the selection tool, sorry, and as I told you here, you can just go to the line and reset profiles. I can go to the brush library. One of the things that you can add, let me just delete the line first. You don't need to delete it, but basically I'm gonna just go to the brush library. We learned how to do the edit stroke style. It depends on the stroke. You're gonna have options based on the stroke selected, but you can go to the brush library here, and you're gonna have a brush library. Let me just increase it. And I can go to the arrows. I have several arrows. I can go to the artistic brushes or anything like, let's just select that brush. If you want to add it to your what styles, you can double click it to your style. I'm gonna add an arrow here. If you want, you can go to the line art. It is already available. You can add patterns. You can see I can add a pattern like anyone. For example, is that one. Let's just add that pattern, and now when you draw a line, as you can see, you can draw a line like that. Always you can go and edit the styles of the line of this. You can increase the spacing, decrease the spacing. You can change the clip art. You can stretch the fit. You can center your artwork. You can size your artwork. You can do a lot of things. And basically, this is not only with lines. Let me go to the straight line. So you have to select first. I need to select this, okay, and then I'm gonna select a normal width. This is gonna be my line. I can select another style. It's gonna be an arrow. This is gonna be like this shape, okay. Basically, these styles can be also applied when you use the brush tool. So when I use the brush tool, not the brush tool, the pen tool, basically. Let's just go to the pen tool. Yeah, the pen tool, not the brush tool, because the pen tool is going to be, as we will discuss, it's going to be a fill, not stroke. So with this pen tool, you see, you have this style, but I can just create this. It's big, so let me just delete everything and just start with that and draw something like this. You see, this is a little bit better, and I can just draw like this. I always can edit. There is no brush library here. It seems you can only add it with your lines, basically. You can create another line, another line, another line, another line, as many as you want with your lines or with these. And also you can create one arrow and another arrow. And as I told you, each one has its own settings. So I'm going to select this arrow. Sorry, I just need to stick to this. So the arrow is going to be a normal arrow, a regular arrow, sorry, not normal, regular arrow. When you double click it, when you select it and you go to the edit stroke styles, you can see you can reverse the arrow style, you can make it up or down or left, you can flip the artwork, you can adjust the corners, you can stretch between guides, you can do a lot of options for your arrow that you can change, okay. Also, you can go to the sub-selection tool, and as I said, you can go here, you can change your drawings, or you can go to the selection, and now I can go to the transform. You see, I make it big, increase the size, and then I make it straight again by holding shift and control, basically, okay. I can double click. Let me go to the selection tool, and I can change the height of my arrow. So let me refresh the drawings. So you just need to refresh. It's going to be better. And change the height. See? And you can change the width as well. Okay. So this is basically, these are the drawing tools that you can use to draw in Adobe Animate. There are several other options you can practice, and basically, but there is one more thing we need to go through when we work with. I'm just checking the time of the lecture. We don't need to go very long. Basically, one more thing is, if I created a shape like this, oops, the stroke is now. Let me just make it a line. I'm gonna delete, and then I will just click that. If you double click to select, and I'm gonna just increase or decrease the stroke. You can delete the fill, and you can add the fill later on, but you cannot just select and go to the fill. It's not gonna be available here. You have to go to the paint bucket tool, and then you fill it with your color. And basically, the colors are going to be selected from the color panel here. You have a color for the fill, and you have a color for the stroke, and each one has different types. Okay, we're going to go through other options of the fill color in another tutorial, basically, because if we go through this, it's going to be a little bit long. So, or maybe we go, but what if we deleted the stroke and we wanted to add the stroke, or we wanted to add a stroke to our fill? It's going to be the same thing, but not using the paint tool. We are going to use the ink bottle tool. Use the ink bottle tool, and then you click this, and this is going to be red because the color here is red, and the color here in this panel is red. You can undo this panel and put it, for example, here if you want. Okay, yeah, like that. Let's just make it a little bit smaller. Okay, it depends on your screen size. You can add under or top panels as we learned in the first lecture. So this is how to add and to add a fill or stroke if your shape or your drawing doesn't have it from the first place, or you deleted it by mistake or intentionally, and you decided to add it later on. Okay, so now let's just talk about the fill setting. So now I'm clicking the fill. I can go to the linear gradient, as I can see here. You can change the linear gradient. You can go to the radial gradient, or you can. Okay, dear students, sorry there was disconnection in the recording. So as we were talking, you can change the solid, linear, radial, or bitmap. And when you select the bitmap, you are going to be directed to Windows Explorer. Basically, you need to select a picture from your computer or from anywhere. I'm going to select just a picture. I will go to semester 1, exams 1, 241, exam assets. I'm going to select, I don't have a picture here, I have an information which is a PSD file. Okay, let me just go to, okay, I remember, where can I get a picture? Content 271, lessons, lesson 1, start or end. Let me just go to the library, and I'm going to select this background, for example, as a picture. And as you can see here, the background is added to my fill color. By default, the background is going to fit your, it's not going to fit basically your fill. The size of the background is likely be larger than what you have, but you can scale it down, move it, and we're going to show you how to do this. But let me go and select another bitmap, basically more clear and more clear image. So this image is smaller, so as you can see it's repeated. Let's just select another one, and this is going to be let me select this, and this is going to be also repeated. So basically these images are small, no issues. Let me show you how to modify this. So when you go here to the free transform tool, okay, there's something called gradient transform tool. Seems it's not available here. We are gonna add it. Yeah, you see here, if you don't find it here by default, there's no need to worry. You can click this edit toolbar options and you are gonna add this. So I'm gonna just add it here. Okay, it's gonna be added there anywhere. No. And then we close. And this gradient tool, when you select it, it's just like a free transform, but for your fill, not for the shape. So as you can see here, I can increase this horizontally and vertically. I can make it like that to make it tiled, or I can just rotate it if I want. I can do whatever I want to do with my fill, not only the bitmap, but even if you have a radial color, as you can see here, you can change the radial, and I can make it smaller. I can change it to any other thing. We can increase this, we can increase that basically, and I will rotate it, and I'm going to make it like this. Okay, so if you want to make it bigger, larger, then you can do that. Okay, you can change even the gradient center if you want, as you can see here with your gradient. Even if it's a linear, you can do the same thing. As you can see here, you can increase it, decrease it, and as you will see inshallah in the near future, when we create animations, these things are all animatable, can be animated. You can animate it like that, so you make it like this and like this, or you open it like that, or you do whatever you want, because you can, as you know, in previous media applications like Photoshop or other applications, you can add as much as I want. Let's hope it is not stopped. So we are back after the because the application crashed, and now we start the application again. We were talking about the gradient transform tool. Okay, it's not added here because we added it and then the program crashed. It's not saved. I'm gonna just put it here, for example. It's gonna add it after that, and that's it. Can close. Okay. You click. You see, if I click the option, if I click this, the solid. Sorry, I was using the subselection tool. Okay. It seems I need to control B. No, I don't know why it's grouped that much. Control B several times until I go back. So now I can select it. Yeah, now it's fine. I can go and do this. Okay. So this is basically how you transform your gradient, or your fill in general. Let's say you can transform your fill. And basically, if you want to select the stroke only and go to this, to the color panel, you can select the stroke. Also the stroke can be linear gradient or even a bitmap. Okay, I'm not going to select the bitmap, I'm going to just leave it as a linear gradient. And when you select this, as you can see, you can do the same thing for your stroke. So the techniques that we applied can be used to your stroke, to your fill and stroke. Similarly, no differences basically. You just need to properly select them. I will click and I will delete. We're going to go through quickly through two other tools to draw. Which one? The first one is the classic brush tool. You can use it to create brush or any strokes. Basically, let me go here and I'm going to just make it both solid. And also the fill is going to be solid as well, but they are not going to be all the same color. I'm going to make this red and I'm going to make this blue. Why? I'm going to tell you why I made one blue and one red. So I will go to the brush, increase the size, and when I draw here, as you can see, it's blue, it's not red, which means the brush draws fills, not strokes. As you can see, when you click, it is fill color, as you can see here. But when you use the pen and draw, this is going to be red. Let me increase the stroke size, and when you draw using a pen, it's going to be stroke. So always you can convert between them basically, but you need to remember, when you use pen tool, basically you are going to create a stroke, not a fill. But when you use the brush tool, you are going to create fills, not strokes. So this is something good to keep in mind when you use drawing tools. So basically you can practice this to several examples, but usually I used to give the student this example here. I'm going to go to File, Open. We have several examples we're going to show you. You need to select one of them and draw them and send them to me to see how much you understand from this. So I'm going to go to let's go to lab activities and go to the football, and I'm going to go to the football scene here. So as you can see here, regardless of the blue and red circles and the ball itself, you need to draw this football pitch, this green rectangle lines. There are several techniques that can be used to draw this football pitch. I'm gonna give you some time to watch the video, give you time basically to watch the video and practice the tools and try to do it yourself, and then we're gonna have a separate tutorial to draw this football scene. You can draw other things other than a football pitch. Basically we can go to Mickey, for example, and you see here we draw Mickey using the shape tools, and as you can see here, this is the Mickey Mouse face. And the other thing that we did before, I think in the previous semester, this is the sporting car also. Okay, this is the sporting car that basically this is animated, but you don't need to animate anything. We are going to cover animation later on, and after we finish drawing and working with symbols. But if you go to the import to library, I cannot import to the stage because this stage is motion tween. We're going to cover this later on. I will go to the course contents 271, and we're going to go to sporting car. So we're going to go to the library. This is the sport car JPG. I'm going to click. You see, this is this is the car that we use to draw our car here. So you can download this from Google. You can just Google any image you want to trace and draw over it. And basically how to do this is you need, let me just lock and hide these layers and create a new layer. Now I can add this sporting car here. I can put it as a reference, and then I create another layer above it. Let me lock this layer which has the car basically, and then I use the pencil or the brush, and I will zoom a little bit, this example, okay, and we're going to the properties. The size of the brush is too big, we need to small it to make it smaller. I'm going to just select red color just to make it different from the blue, from the red, and as you can see here we can create the car, okay, and you can just trace it, and you're going to be okay with that. For the circles, you don't need to basically to draw it from scratch. So for example, let me just go quickly to this car, to this part here, just quickly demonstrate the process here. So we have this. I'm gonna fill it with a color. Let's just select another color. Let's just select blue. I'm going to change the opacity to something like this so we can see the car beneath it. So sorry, I'm going to select everything and I will just put it here. Now for the tire, I'm not going to draw it. We're going to use this merge technique of objects, merge drawing mode techniques. So I'm going to stick to that. Okay, no problem for the opacity, or I can change it because basically we are not gonna keep it. We are going to use it just to remove the child. So now I will, I will double click and I'm going to put it here. Let's just make it, Q, free transform. I'm going to increase the size. Shift, let me just increase the size. Okay, no problem. And it's just an example here. So when I deselect, I will delete. Why it's not deleted? Because it's an object mode. So let me just click it. No, this is an object mode. So basically, let us see if we have the circle again here. Oops, and I'm gonna just move it. Sorry. No, this is all stroke. I'm sorry about that. This is why. Yeah, this is why it was all stroke. It is an object drawing mode right now. Now it is, it is a circle, as you can see here, and you click and drag, it's going to be deleted. As you can see here, you have an opening for the tire, and then you can come and put your tire here, and eventually you're going to end up with something similar to this. This is what we did. Okay, so basically this also can be a circle and then another circle, cutting it from inside, and then you draw these and then you copy paste them and so on. And you see, with a little bit of effort you can draw even better than this car. So please try to draw one of these examples, or any other examples that you come to your mind, any logo you want, anything, just like anything you can draw to show that you know how to work with the tool. So I'm going to show you something here. If you go to the Adobe, basically there is a tutorial, which is a nice tutorial that you can see. It is going to talk about drawing with a brush tool. You can find it on YouTube, or you can find it in help.adobe.com. So when you click, you see, basically this is version, I guess, 2019, but it's the same concept. So you can always go to here and check this link. Thank you very much, and see you in the next tutorial with another topic.